Imagine arriving at work on Monday morning. Your finance manager receives an email from your CEO asking for an urgent payment. The wording sounds exactly like your CEO. The urgency feels real. You know Project Alpha is a real project that the team is working on. The attached invoice looks legitimate. No one questions it. And by the time anyone double checks, the money is already gone. The email wasn't actually from the CEO. It was generated and personalized using AI. This isn't science fiction anymore. Around the world, artificial intelligence is making cyber attacks faster, more targeted, and more difficult to detect. Hey, my name is Marcel. I'm a data engineer at a Fortune 500 company. In this video, I want to talk about how AI is changing the economics of cybercrime, why most businesses are not ready, and what you can do to mitigate the risks. But before we talk about all that, let's briefly look at how cyber attacks have traditionally worked. If you've ever imagined a hacker as someone who simply types a few comments and instantly breaks into a company, reality is much less dramatic. Successful cyber attacks are usually a process, and until recently, that process was surprisingly manual. Before AI, attackers had to spend hours or even days researching a target. They would visit company websites, search employee profiles on LinkedIn, read press releases, study organizational charts, and look for publicly available information that could be useful. This stage is called reconnaissance, and it's all about gathering intelligence before launching an attack. Think of it as homework for the attacker. Once they had gathered enough information, they would move on to the next phase, using that information to trick someone into taking an action that benefited the attacker. This could be something as simple as clicking a malicious link or approving a fraudulent payment. The more information attackers managed to collect about their target, the more convincing these attempts became. But there was always a problem. Writing personalized emails for hundreds or thousands of employees simply didn't scale. So attackers often settled for generic phishing campaigns with obvious spelling mistakes and suspicious wording. They relied on sending millions of emails and hoped that a small percentage of people would make a mistake. Now, of course, there were more sophisticated attempts, but even developing malicious software, for example, requires significant technical skill and effort. So while cybercrime was certainly a massive industry before AI, there was always one thing limiting how quickly attackers could operate: humans. Human researchers, human writers, human programmers, human analysts. Every additional target required additional work. And that's exactly where artificial intelligence changes the picture. AI doesn't suddenly turn someone with no technical knowledge into an elite hacker. That's a common misconception. What AI does is arguably something even more powerful. It dramatically increases the productivity of people who already know what they are doing. Tasks that once took hours now can take minutes. Research becomes faster, writing becomes easier and more convincing, personalization happens automatically, code can be generated, explained, and modified in seconds. In other words, AI is changing the economics of cybercrime. So let's walk through a typical cyber attack and see exactly where AI is making the biggest difference. Let's imagine you're a cybercriminal targeting a mid-sized manufacturing company. 10 years ago, preparing an attack like this could take days or even weeks. Today, AI can dramatically accelerate almost every step. It all starts with gathering information. Before AI, an attacker might spend hours searching LinkedIn, company websites, job postings, annual reports, and social media profiles to understand how the business operates. They are looking for answers to questions like who works in finance, who approves payments, who are the executives, what software does the company use, and are there any recently hired employees who might be easier to target. Today, AI can process all of that public information in minutes. Instead of manually reading hundreds of pages, an AI system can summarize the organization and even suggest the most promising targets for an attack. The attacker still decides what to do, but AI dramatically reduces the amount of manual work required. Now comes the human element. Let's say the attacker decides to impersonate the company's CEO. Before AI, they had to write the email themselves and hope it sounded convincing. Today, AI can easily generate a message that matches the CEO's writing style. It can reference recent company events and even mention projects the targeted employee is currently working on based on publicly available information. This means instead of sending one generic phishing email to everyone, attackers can create thousands of highly personalized emails, each tailored to a specific employee. That makes the attack much more believable and much harder to detect. Suppose the attacker wants to deliver malicious software. Yeah, it doesn't magically invent malicious malware, but it can help experienced attackers work much faster, the same way it helps regular engineers to be more effective. It can help troubleshoot errors, modify existing logic, or rewrite code to make it harder for traditional security tools to recognize. In other words, AI acts like a highly capable assistant that speeds up development. It does not necessarily replace the attacker's expertise, but it can make already smart attackers surprisingly dangerous. Perhaps the biggest change isn't any individual step. It's scale. Imagine every task we've discussed becoming 5 or 10 times faster. Research that took 2 days now takes 20 minutes. Writing hundreds of personalized phishing emails takes minutes instead of hours. Malware can be created and modified much more quickly. The attacker can repeat the entire process across hundreds or even thousands of companies. That's why cybersecurity experts are paying so much attention to AI right now. The main concern isn't that AI creates entirely new kinds of attacks, it's that it allows existing attacks to be carried out faster, cheaper, and at a scale we've never seen before. At this point, it might sound like businesses don't stand a chance, but that's only half the story, because the same technology that's helping attackers is also becoming one of the most powerful tools available to defenders. And that's where the AI arms race really begins. Again, the good news is that AI isn't only helping attackers, it's also becoming one of the most powerful tools available to cybersecurity teams. In many ways, we're witnessing the beginning of an AI arms race. Attackers are using AI to make their attacks faster, more convincing, and more scalable, but defenders are also using AI to detect those attacks earlier, respond more quickly, and automate tasks that previously required teams of security analysts. Just think about how much data a modern company generates every single day. Login attempts, emails, network traffic, file downloads, cloud activity, user behavior. For a large organization, that's millions, sometimes billions of events every single day. No human security team can manually analyze all of that information. This is, for example, where AI excels. Instead of looking for one virus or one specific attack signature, modern AI systems can learn what normal activity looks like across an organization. Then when something unusual happens, they can raise an alert almost immediately. Imagine an employee who normally logs in from Budapest between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., accesses finance applications, and rarely downloads large amounts of data. Then one evening, their account suddenly logs in from another country, starts accessing engineering documents, and downloads thousands of files within minutes. Even if every individual action appears legitimate on its own, together they form a pattern that looks highly suspicious. AI can identify those patterns far more quickly than a human analyst reviewing system logs one by one. Detection is, of course, only one part of the equation. AI is also helping organizations respond faster. Instead of waiting for an analyst to notice suspicious activity, security platforms can automatically isolate compromised devices, block malicious emails before they reach employees, or prioritize the most critical incidents for investigation. That matters because in cybersecurity, every minute counts. The faster an attack is detected and contained, the less damage it can cause. Now, fortunately or not, AI is not a silver bullet. It can make mistakes, it can generate false positives, you can miss new attacks, and like any technology, it's only as effective as the data is trained on and the people operating it. Organizations still need skilled cybersecurity professionals. AI isn't replacing them, it's allowing them to focus on the threats that matter the most instead of spending hours reviewing a routine alert. So where does all of this leave businesses? If attackers have AI and defenders have AI, what should a small or medium-sized company actually do? That's reason to panic or to buy every new AI security product on the market. It's to understand that the rules of cybersecurity are changing and to adapt before attackers force you to. First, don't assume you are too small to be a target. In the past, attackers often focused on larger organizations because smaller attacks simply weren't worth the time and effort, but AI is changing that equation rapidly. When research, phishing, and attack preparation become largely automated, targeting thousands of smaller businesses suddenly becomes economically viable. In other words, automation lowers the cost of attacking you. Second, remember technology alone isn't enough. Most successful cyber attacks don't begin with sophisticated malware. They begin with a person. Someone clicks a link, someone approves a payment they shouldn't, someone reuses a weak password. That's where employee awareness is just as important as investing in security software. As AI-generated emails, voices, and even video become more convincing, verifying unusual requests will need to become an essential business habit, not just an IT responsibility. Third, you need to make it harder for attackers to succeed. Enable multi-factor authentication whenever you can, keep your systems updated, limit unnecessarily access to sensitive data, and regularly back up critical information. All these simple things can go a long way, and even if you have done most of them, there are usually one or two additional steps you can still take, and that might be just enough to make it exponentially more difficult for someone to harm your business. Last but not least, be practical. Have a plan for how your business would respond if an attack actually happened. The speed of recovery often matters just as much as the ability to prevent an attack in the first place. Every major technological breakthrough changes both opportunity and risk. The internet transformed communication, but it created online crime. Cloud computing transformed business, but it introduced new security challenges. Artificial intelligence is following the same pattern. It's helping businesses become more effective, but at the same time, it's giving attackers new ways to work smarter and at a much larger scale. Some people think that AI is replacing hackers. It isn't, at least not today, but it does make capable attackers dramatically more productive, and that's enough to completely change the cybersecurity landscape. If you found this video useful, consider subscribing. I make videos about AI, automation, and data, not just what's making headlines, but what these technologies actually mean for businesses and the people working in them. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.